Return of the Mount Hua Sect, Chapter 182. What in the world is this? Depending on one's perspective, it could be considered a long time or a short time. But finally, the carriage carrying Mount Hua's disciples entered the Sichuan province. Whoa! As the carriage approached the gate, the eyes of everyone standing nearby focused on them. Anyone with enough money to ride a horse-drawn carriage was certain to be precious and influential. It was only natural to be curious. Libo, who pulled the reins, glanced back and shouted, "We have arrived in Chengdu!" The flinching inside the carriage could be felt. Keek! Keek! Soon, the carriage door opened and the disciples of Mount Hua walked out. What is that? What is with their appearance? Have they been to a war? The crowd began to clamor and gossip. Needless to say, the disciples that emerged from the wagon no longer appeared human. I'm gonna die. We worked hard, leaving home. We've reached Sichuan. We're halfway there. When will we ever reach Yunnan? The tragic sight of Mount Hua's disciples was simply reminiscent of a severely sick person. Wide eyes, shaking legs, and sagging shoulders. Even Chongmyung looked gloomy. This was one hellish journey. Let's not do this again. Half left, another half. The gates of the unfamiliar Sichuan looked like the gates to another world. For now, Mount Hua's disciples felt like crying since they could finally escape the constant repetition of their training. I thought something interesting would occur if we did it for another 2 days. Looking at Chongmyung, who had regained his taste for training, resentment poured in from all sides. Enough! Another 2 days! I would be a corpse by then. I'd rather just die. Kill me. You really don't have a heart, do you? Even Chongmyung flinched in the face of their fearsome momentum. Anyway, we arrived alive, so this should be fine. While the disciples were talking, Libo came down the horse. What would you like to do now? Would you like to head to the Unha's branch in Sichuan? Well, Baekchun frowned. Seeing his reaction, Libo continued. The Sichuan branch has been given the orders to gather information about Yunnan. Would it have been gathered? Libo frowned and spoke with a sigh. Honestly, Unha's information gathering network doesn't extend to Yunnan. In the past, we dealt with Yunnan, but even then, it was more like brokering the needs brought by the small merchants rather than a merchant union. I see. In other words, we cannot find a way to enter Yunnan with the ability of Unha. From now on, there might be nothing we can do to help. Instead, we can provide you with accommodation as long as you need it. So please come to the branch if you need a place to stay. Thank you for that. We will check the situation and then head to the branch, so you can head there first and rest. Okay, I will go ahead and repair the carriage as well as prepare for your stay. Let me know once you're done checking the situation. Yes, thank you. When Baekchun finished speaking, Libo bowed his head and went back onto the carriage. As he drove the carriage away through the city gates, Baekchun looked back at his juniors. We should also head in. Yes, but keep one thing in mind. He spoke with a cautious face. We came here to find a way to enter Yunnan, not to cause trouble. The capital of Sichuan is the domain of the Sichuan Tang family, and there is also the Qingcheng sect not far from here. So people from the sect will often come and go through this area. It's rare, but we might also cross paths with the female monks of the Hua Sect. So make sure to keep your act together. Don't worry, Sasuk. The Sahyungs all know this pretty well. A vein on Baekchun's forehead grew and popped in anger. You! It is you! You bastard! I'm not talking about the others. You are the problem. Have you ever seen me create a problem? When have you not created problems? With a long breath, Baekchun struggled to calm his mind and spoke in a serious tone. Keep in mind, we will leave as soon as we find a way to enter Yunnan. Don't create trouble. Even now in Mount Hua, our elders are waiting for us to come back safe and sound. Even if it's only one day, we must complete our task and return as quickly as possible. Don't worry about it. Baekchun was suddenly desperate to search for a drug that could make someone shut up. First, we should visit the Beggars Union branch. But I think the merchants might know more about Yunnan than the Beggars Union, so it may be better to start our search from there. Let's do it that way. Baekchun nodded at Yu Yi-sol's answer. Let's go. The party from Mount Hua diligently searched around and worked hard to gather information about Yunnan. Chongmyung complained that the entire process was useless, but Baekchun took a different stance. He believed that one little piece of information could change their fate. Yunnan was a place where communication had been severed, so he wanted anything, even just one more piece of information about it. But the disciples of Mount Hua, who sat at a table in a guest house, let out a deep sigh. Sichuan is right next to Yunnan, so how can they have no information? The Beggars Union was the most shocking. Yunjong couldn't hide his embarrassment. A way to enter Yunnan? Why are you asking us about it? The calm words of the branch leader continued to resonate in his mind. The man responded with a snort when asked if they could get any relevant information. Beggars can't live in Yunnan, so how can we have any information? It was a statement that completely trampled on their hope. Yunnan was such a barren land that no one could beg, so even the Beggars Union wouldn't enter recklessly. First of all, wouldn't they need to find some source of food in order to operate there? In addition, the branch leader said that the Nanman Beast Palace is wary about the Beggars Union establishing a branch and constantly monitors them. The same goes for the merchants. We have no options. We found nothing. Yunjong sighed and spoke. There is no information about Yunnan. Let's not have hope for the merchants. So, maybe that's not the case. Huh? Yunjong turned to Jogul, who spoke. The Beggars Union might not have information about Yunnan, but not the merchants. They know, but they're withholding the information. Why? Because there's no reason to tell us. Where's the profit in that? Didn't we tell them we would pay for it? It isn't enough. We would need to have taken Mount Hua's symbol off our clothes at least. Baekchun explained, upon understanding Jogul's words. So they rejected us. Jogul nodded his head. Sichuan is a place where the exclusion of outsiders is more severe than you'd think. It's far from the center of the Central Plains, and there are historical problems of the past. Right. Even in government offices, it was said that people from Sichuan were never selected as officials. For the Central Plains, Sichuan was a land of foreigners that was ostracized and excluded. The Sichuan Tang family has a lot of influence here. In order to make a living in the capital, Chengdu, we need to look for the Tang family. Would such people proudly welcome foreigners wearing the robes of another sect? Chongmyung, who heard it, yelled, "You should have told us right away!" If I did, would you have taken it off? No, but it's still annoying. Chongmyung pouted. Should he hide that he was from Mount Hua? That was impossible. He would rather be rejected openly. Then let's wear a mask and go out at night. No. Anyway, don't do it like that. If we really need to get information, we must get the support from the Sichuan Tang family, or at least hide that we're outsiders. Baekchun nodded his head with a solemn expression. I get what you mean. Then suddenly, Yunjong looked at Jogul and asked, "But how did you know? Wait, are you from Sichuan?" Jogul's face turned somber. "Come to think of it, I remember you saying that your house is in Sichuan, right?" Jogul felt like he was going to die and answered with a sigh. Yes. Oh, so, Baekchun exclaimed like he finally understood. It wouldn't have been easy to know these facts if he wasn't from Sichuan. Baekchun felt like he had grabbed some sort of clue. Chongmyung's eyes twinkled. But, Jogul Sahyung, didn't you say that you were a merchant's son? How can we go back without going to Jogul Sayong's house? No, how bad is your personality to make us run all around the city because you don't want us as guests in your house? What a horrible personality! You're the last person I want to hear that from. Jogul trembled in rage. At that moment, all the disciples of Mount Hua agreed with Jogul's words. Hearing such words from Cheongmyeong was a wretched insult. No, it isn't like that. Jogul took a deep breath. Enough. Cheongmyeong smiled and patted him on the shoulder. It's all the same. I'm sure it's a story of a child who's been kicked from his home, so he probably doesn't want to go back to that house. It's okay, it's fine. Baekchun Sasuk will understand your feelings. I left with my own feet, on my own feet. Read the air, Sasuk. Cheongmyeong smiled and poked Jogul in the ribs. Anyway, since it's come to this, let's go home, Sahyung. Jogul sighed deeply and got up. Right, sure. This is all for the sect. Then, let's go. Right away. Yes, Sasuk. Everyone left the guest house with a slightly brighter face and started to walk along with Jogul. Cheongmyeong put his hands behind the back of his head and whistled. How is it that not a single person in your family respects you? Feeling the comment stab like a needle poking his head, Baekchun turned around furiously. No, I'm not talking about you, Sasuk. Not everything in the world is about you. Then say it properly. Baekchun grunted. Why would a person who is pretty famous and well-loved enter Mount Hua? Huh? I can't let that comment slide. Isn't that like saying you would have gone to the Jongnam sect if they weren't crooked? Our sect leader should hear this. Baekchun shook his head at Cheongmyeong's words. The important thing is that I chose Mount Hua. Right. If you had gone to the Jongnam sect, you would still be carrying the burden of your older brother even now. Baekchun's hand went for his sword, but Yoonjung grabbed his hand and shook his head. Calm down. Let's cover our ears and close our eyes. Fucking bastard. Meanwhile, Jogul led them all to the way to the corner of Chengdu. Oh, is it that one there? A small shopping center came into Cheongmyeong's eyes. Chengdu Merchant Shop. It felt like a randomly made-up name, but it was clear that it was a merchant shop. The slightly old-looking building and small scale gave it a cute appearance. Wow, you're the second person to enter Mount Hua because of your family. Anyway, Jogul Sayong also has a pretty cute side to him. Can we greet your parents too? As Cheongmyeong walked along, Jogul sighed and called out to him. Where are you going? Huh? Did Sayong want to go first? That's not the right way. It's this way. What? Where? Here. Cheongmyeong's gaze returned to where Jogul pointed. A wall? A wall was visible. He turned his head, but he could only see a large wall painted red. There, he saw he found a very large door. 4C's Merchant Chamber. Cheongmyeong's eyes trembled. The wall was so wide that it was impossible to see the end, and many impressive pavilions were inside. Cheongmyeong, who alternated between this shocking sight and Jogul, opened his mouth and spoke with a trembling voice. No way, right? It is. This is the one? Yes. This is Jogul Sayong's house? This mansion where an emperor would live? Yes. Sayong is the child of this house? Oh my, what in the hell is happening?